Hey y'all, it's Katie. Welcome or welcome back, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to check out another one of my videos. Today we are going to be talking about the Dose of Colors Cutting Edge palette. And this video is a bit of a follow-up to my Shop My Stash video that I put up not too long ago, a couple days ago, and I mentioned that I feel like this palette, while I love it and I'm so glad I got it, I feel like it's a very grungy palette that I have similar palettes already in my collection, so I kind of threw it out there of like, if you guys want me to swatch it and compare it to my other grungy palettes, let me know. And I got some responses, so I figured I'd sit down, and I am able to squeeze it in today. So I sit down and go ahead and swatch these palettes out on my arm, and that way we can really see side by side if this cutting edge palette, the new palette from Dose of Colors, is similar to any palettes that are already out there. That way, if you're someone who's trying not to spend a lot of money, or you don't want to have a bunch of duplicate colors and you're not obsessed with grungy green palettes like I am and just want them all no matter if they are the same or not, maybe you just want one or two in your life, and so therefore if you already have these colors, you can pass on this palette. So that is kind of the purpose of this video. So I pulled out, I think, 7 palettes from my collection that either had very similar like color story, or it had enough colors within the grungy green palette to possibly dupe some of the shadows in the cutting edge palette, and therefore if you have, you know, a couple of them and they all kind of dupe what is in here, then therefore you don't have to get it. But anyway, I'm going to get a little bit closer so you guys can really be able to see. So yeah, if you're interested in seeing me swatch this palette against all my other grungy green palettes, stay tuned. But before we dive into that, I do want to do my Instagram shout out for today. And for today's Instagram shout out, it's going to go to Sun Bleach Curls. She commented on my most recent Instagram post and left me such a sweet comment. So thank you so much for interacting with my content. Lauren, I believe, is her name. You are my Instagram shout out for today. And if you want a chance to be featured at the beginning of my videos like you just saw, all you have to be doing is following me on Instagram. I'm LadyKatie92, and interact with my content as it goes up, and then I randomly select someone in the comments of my post to shout out in a video. So now we can jump right into swatching all of these grungy green palettes on my arms. Redoing them. So let's go ahead and swatch that out first. So I use this on my eyes today, which we'll get into after we do all the swatches, but I will say that the mattes are a little bit harder to pick up on your finger than they are on a brush. Like when I picked them up on a brush, they were extremely pigmented, but I feel like on my finger, it's a little bit trickier to pick up. So I guess I'll try to be as halfway on my arm for you guys. And I'll just swatch them like so. There's that last one. And I'll apologize right up front. I'm going to be looking at my viewfinder a lot because I don't have a separate monitor. All I have is my viewfinder. But there are those, and also because it's on the cover of my arm, you can see the shine. They're really pretty. Okay, so that is the Cutting Edge palette by Dose of Colors. And immediately, I even mentioned this in my Shop My Stash for the palettes I'm using this month, but I mentioned it reminded me of the Kaledios Futurism Sci-Fi Greens palette. I mean, just looking at it, I feel like, you know, omitting the black, they look very similar. So let's swatch them out, and we'll start at the top and go down. Okay, let's see if I can do this. This is a little bit awkward for me. I might be a little in the way here when I'm swatching. I guess I can go like this, but then I am totally covering the swatch, but it's just too awkward. I can't get my hand over there. The green, they don't really have a green, like this type of green when it comes to the shimmers, but I'll swatch it since it's in the palette. And then there's that green. That green honestly looks like that green up there. That's pretty close. And then let's see. Do you guys want me? I'll swatch the black since it's in the Kaledios palette, but like there's no black in the Cutting Edge palette, so I'm not really expecting to dupe a black in here. There's that green, and then the black. So there are those. So that is the Sci-Fi Greens from Kaledios, and then turning it, that is the Cutting Edge. What do you guys think? Similar? Different? I feel like if you omit this shade, since it is definitely more of like a terracotta orange, whereas this is like a mustard in the Kaledios palette, if you omit those two, I feel like the greens are very similar to this one green though. It's just that one green. This I feel like is a lot deeper than these greens. So I don't know, they definitely have similarities, but they definitely have their differences. So it's up to you whether you think that they're super similar. If there's any true dupe, I feel like the golds could be. My nails are not press-ons for the first time in like forever. Levi is learning how to eat, so I am constantly like having to fish food out of his mouth that he's choking on. So I don't want press-ons or long nails right now because I don't want to be like stabbing and scratching the back of his throat. So I cut all my nails super short, and since they are so short, I was just getting tired of them. I was like, you know what, let me paint them. So I painted them a neon color from LA Girl. Anyway, that was very much a rabbit trail. Let's go into the Gemini palette, and I'm going to be just swatching these 4 up here, and then I'll probably just swatch, we'll just do these 2, save a little time that way. But let's go ahead and start with Mochi, Fire OG, Goals, and Leo. We'll just come straight down there with the greens. Alright, so this is the first one. But that looks pretty close. I guess we can swatch Goals. I forgot they do have a more of a gold green in here. That's it. This green shimmer is definitely not in the Cutting Edge palette. Okay, and then as I said, I'll go ahead and do Gemini, and then I'll do Laura Lee, this shade, and then the Polka Dot shade. Polka Dot's probably too dark, but... Okay, so then we have... Yeah, this is Gemini. Oh yeah, Gemini is a whole lot pinkier, whereas this is gold. And then we have that Laura Lee. That's too mustardy in comparison. Like, yeah, that shade is very close to that shade. Those two could be dupeable. Okay, the more I do these swatch party videos, the more I have so much respect for like Amy and Karen who do these a lot, because your arm gets tired, it gets heavy. But anyway, Cutting Edge is on this side, and the Gemini, almost all, I think, except for 3 shades, is the Melt Cosmetics Gemini palette. What do you guys think? They're pretty close. Excluding like the shimmers being nowhere in the Gemini palette, I feel like the mattes could be dupeable within the Gemini palette. Let me know what you guys think. Okay, next up I want to compare the Colored Raine Safari Rain palette. I know this is limited edition, but since they just had a restock, a lot of people picked it up, and they also have all of these colors available as singles. I feel like you're still able to get it, and a lot of people do have it, so I feel like it'd be worth comparing to, because I know this palette is so shiny, but when I looked at this palette, it has that green goldish colors, it has this more clayish color there, and then the greens, so I was just curious. I know it doesn't have the deep green, it's not exactly dupe, but it does have that grungy vibe to it with a mix of the gold, green, and more reddish tones. So I figured we'll swatch the colors that look similar. So I think I'm going to just be swatching Toucan, Clay, Congo Basin, Green Valley, even though there's no true shimmer green, but we'll swatch it, and then we'll do Lioness, and I think that's going to be the only similar shades. I can do Amazon Basin too, just because it is ish similar to the shimmer in there, but we'll do those 6. Alright, so here's the first one. I'll put it a little bit higher here. Ooh, that is pretty close. Again, fairly close. It's, you know, not exact, most definitely, but they're close. Let me do this one again, because I didn't come over enough. There's those 3. Yeah, that's like this little grouping right here. There's very like tonal difference, maybe a little bit more pigmented difference, whereas I feel like the Colored Raine is just a little bit more saturated in like the depth of the color, but very close. Okay, then we have Green Valley. Like I said, this one really doesn't have, like, there's no true green shimmer in the Cutting Edge palette. That one's a lot different. Oh my goodness, it's so blinding. I love that shadow so much. And then here's this shade. This is, what did I say? Amazon Basin. I thought it might be comparable to that, but no, very, very different. So yeah, I feel like when it comes to Safari Rain, we're really only talking very similar with the first 3 that I swatched. From there on out, they're pretty different. Okay, so next up, I just want to say I did have to re-swatch because I was getting them a little too muddled up. So I did re-swatch the Cutting Edge palette, but let's move on to the Give Me Glow palette. This is the Juicy Olive palette. This one, again, not super similar, but when we're talking about the greens in this palette, I was really curious to see how these 2 matte greens would compare to the matte greens in here. So we're going to swatch these 3, and then we'll do the shimmer at the end. This one and this one I know aren't going to be close enough, so I don't know, no point in swatching them. Let me know if you like that for future reference when if I ever do this type of video again where I take a palette that just released and compare it to other palettes in my collection. Would you prefer the whole palette to be swatched or just the similar colors? Let me know. But anyway, for this video, this is what we're going to do. That's pretty. I'll do this a little bit lower. I don't want to mix it into that shimmer there. Ooh, I think that's, let's see. Okay, a little bit more. They were, maybe not on camera. In person, they look, this is just a little bit more true green, where this has a lot more depth and like blackness to the greeniness, if that makes sense, but not as far off as I thought it would be. This shade right here, which was Vodkatini, is definitely close to that top shade in the Cutting Edge palette. And then the other 2 greens, I mean, not surprisingly, it's just not as deep, but, oh, all right, I'll go ahead and do Cocktails, which is the darkest shade in the Juicy Olive palette. Yeah, it's definitely, you know, cocktail, or yeah, cocktails is what it's called, but that shadow just has a lot more brown to it, whereas the one in the Cutting Edge palette has a lot more green to it. But yeah, there they are. Make sure I stay nice and still so you guys can see, but this is the Juicy Olive palette by Give Me Glow, and then this is the Cutting Edge palette by Dose of Colors. Okay, this isn't exactly a dupe, but I was just so curious. When I saw this palette, I thought of the e.l.f. Hot Jalapeno palette, and they're bite size, so I was like, let's swatch it. It's not going to be super close, but I feel like if anything's close, it's going to be the shimmer and this matte green, so there's only 4 shades. We'll swatch it really quick, and it's like a $3 palette, so if it's even close with like 2 shades, I feel like that'd be a pretty good deal, especially if you already have the bite size palette. Let's go ahead and swatch that right here. That's that gold shade. I'm sorry I'm like hiding it when I'm swatching it, but that's the only way I can swatch. I'll have to think through this a little bit more if I want to do comparison videos like this. Maybe I should just point the camera down and show my arm. But I feel like even that'll be awkward. Anyway, that is the Hot Jalapeno palette by e.l.f. and then this is the Cutting Edge palette. Definitely doesn't have those burnt reddish tones, but besides that, even the greens aren't really the same. This is more of a green, true green. It still has grunge to it, but it's green. Whereas this has just like a dirty brown grunge to it, if that makes sense. Okay, I felt like I had to compare it to the OG when it comes to grungy, at least for me, like the start of my grungy greens. It's the Subculture palette, and I figured I'd pick out the ones that kind of stand out to me as being somewhat similar, just so we can kind of see and compare them. Looking at it, I feel like New Wave is going to be one of them. Adorn looks too dark, but we'll do Adorn, and then we'll do Destiny and Untamed. Even though Untamed I feel like it's going to be the wrong kind of green, but I just wanted to swatch a couple colors in here just to see for old time's sake. So I'm going to take, let's see, New Wave, Destiny, Adorn, and Untamed, this little ish of a square over here, and we're going to compare them to the Cutting Edge palette. Okay, so here's that first shade. Yeah, see, not too far off from that shade right there. That's what I was thinking looking at it. This has a lot more gray in it, but it's just almost like a lighter version of the one down here in the Cutting Edge palette. Not that far off. Yeah, that's a lot deeper of a gold than that is. And then here's that last one. What is this called? Untamed. Totally different green. But there you go. Those are the similar colors that I thought that I could see just looking at the palette to what could potentially be in the Cutting Edge palette. And then very last up, I did want to do a couple swatches from the Nomad by Juvia's Place palette. This isn't an identical dupe, but there are definitely those shades in here I feel like stand out as being potential. Very similar to the Cutting Edge palette, being especially this shade here, this green over here, this darker kind of burdish brown green over here. And then what else would I want to swatch? I'll swatch this one as well because it kind of looks like that first shade. So we're going to take some swatches from here. So yeah, I think all of these will take, and then this one, and I'll see if there's any other similars, but I feel like that's going to be the most similar in this palette. Okay, so let's see. I have that first shade, which is all out of order, but it's just the closest one. I'm going to try to put them close to the shades that I feel like are similar in the Cutting Edge palette. But that is, what is this? Oh, I didn't realize it didn't have names, but this shade right there. And then next is that more orangey-ish shade in the Nomad palette. Yeah, that's pretty close. Then this is that dark shimmer. That was a crooked swatch, but those shimmers are very close. The only difference I feel like is there's more gold glitter reflex in the Cutting Edge one than the Nomad. The Nomad is just like a shimmery brown, green, taupey, whatever color that is. And then the last shade is that matte green. This was a shade I really didn't like in the Nomad palette, and I feel like that swatch sums up why I didn't like it. This is the shade I'm swatching. Like, look how dark and pigmented that is. Even when I like swatch it on my finger, and then me trying to swatch it, it just like turns translucent. Anyway, enough for you to see. There it is. Yeah, those are actually really close. Not that far off. And you know what? Might as well just do that shimmer in the middle. I don't think it's going to be close to that, you know, gold, but we'll just put it up here. Yeah, nowhere close, but yeah, it's definitely more icy white, whereas this is gold. But yeah, this is the Cutting Edge palette compared to the Nomad palette from Juvia's Place. Pretty close. Alright, so those were all of the palettes that I thought were very similar to the Dose of Colors Cutting Edge palette. Those are all of them swatched out next to it. Let me know what you think. I am just so curious to hear your guys' feedback. I feel like there definitely were some palettes where if I wasn't the makeup addict that I am and just wanted to own, like there's just a part of me that doesn't care how close it is. If it's a grungy green palette, I just want to have it in my collection. But if I wasn't, if I was more reasonable, I feel like I wouldn't have needed this palette because I could most definitely get, between all the palettes that I have, be able to dupe this palette. So let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know if you have any of these palettes and if you purchase this, if you're picking it up, or if you're able to pass because you have one of these palettes. I'd love to hear what you guys think down below in the comments. But I did also want to do a bit of a first impressions in here since, like I said, I do have it on my eyes today. I did go ahead and film it. I was like, you know what? I'll just go ahead and put a very quick little tutorial in here so you guys can see the look that I got today, see how the shadows worked for me, and hear just a little bit of my first impressions. And I just want to make sure I'm very clear. This is a first impressions. This is the first time I've had it on my eyes, and I don't even have a full wear test. I've only been wearing it since, what was it, 6 this morning. It's 1 right now, so don't even have a full day's wear test, but I figured it would be helpful for you guys to see and to hear my thoughts because I don't plan to do a 3 looks 1 palette with this palette, so at least you'll get 1 look from me here on my channel. But anyway, let's jump into the tutorial. Alright, so I'm just going to be doing a sped up kind of talk through voiceover for this, but I'm just taking that first shade and warming up my crease, and as you can see, it's a very light shade that works really well to just warm up a color. I was really happy it wasn't too pigmented because I did want to go in really light, and once that was blended out, and I blended out so easily, like no issues or anything at all, no skipping or patching, I went into that middle shade, that kind of burnt terracotta orangey shade, and I tried to put that right in the crease, but it's very pigmented as you can see, and it builds up so nicely, and I think I just got a little bit, didn't think and got a little bit too excited and just put too much on, so I feel like it kind of overshadowed and eventually overtook that first shade. So I really wish I would have been a little more careful and kept it a lot lower and just stuck it right into my crease, but I put that there, I blended it in. It looks beautiful. I had no issues. It was very pigmented, very easy to build up and put on top of that shade. Once that was down, I did take the deepest, darkest matte green and I put that on my outer corner. This shade is extremely pigmented. I should have gone on with a less dense brush because I went with a very dense brush and it just packed it right on, and I was so impressed. I was like, oh dear, I need something to help me blend this out because it's just so pigmented. But anyway, once I took my time and blended that out and buffed it out and was happy with how it looked, I went in with the green shimmer and I put that onto my lid. I did put a glitter glue under this before any of the shimmers just to throw it out there because I wanted to make sure there was no fallout. So I put that shimmer on. It is so easy and beautiful and smooth to put on. Absolutely love it. And then went on with that gold and I kind of cut the crease with that just to give a kind of, I don't know, two-dimensional look on my lid with the green and the gold. And the gold, while it is beautiful, it is so shimmery, it's so reflective. There are so many sparkle reflex I can see. It's definitely a little bit more translucent, or it's not just as pigmented in color, I guess you could say, as the green is. The green has a lot of color behind it, whereas I feel the gold doesn't as much. But anyway, that's just something to know. I feel like it's just a looks, I feel like I can see through the gold a little bit to my lid, whereas the green I can't. But anyway, I stopped there, kind of finish up my face, and then I move on to my lower lash line where I just took that green and blended it out. Very easy. It took like 2 seconds to pack that on and blend it out. Was very happy. And then I went in with the lightest green matte shade and just buffed that out and kind of made sure I smoked it out and feathered it out to make it look really kind of smoked out and grungified. And then for my inner corner, I did go ahead and take the TerraMoons Cosmetics. I believe that, I don't know what type of shadow this is, but the shade is like IO or LO, I'm not really sure, but I will leave a link down below. But I just took that shade and packed it in the inner corner. It is just so beautiful, so gorgeous. But yeah, that inner corner doesn't come from the palette. I just wanted to use something really popping in my inner corner today. But yeah, that is the look. And here's a couple of close-ups so you guys can really see. Let me know your thoughts. I do have false lashes on, I should point out. They are Salon Perfect's Demi Wispies. So yeah, that is my first impressions on this palette. I'm super happy with it. Like I said, all the colors are very pigmented. All the shimmers are really beautiful. But overall, I feel like the look turned out really pretty. I really like how it looks. And as I said, I did put glitter glue underneath because I wanted to keep my look clean. And there has been no fallout, so I'm very happy with that. But overall, very happy with how everything blended. And I cannot wait to use this some more. It's definitely a me type of palette. But yeah, with all this said, that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys found this video informative and helpful in some way. And if you did, please let me know that down below in the comments. And let me know if you'd like to see me do this again in the future. If there's a palette that comes out I'm able to get relatively early, and maybe I can sit down and compare it to any similar palettes that I have in my collection. Of course, I'll only be able to do this with palettes like, you know, this palette is very grungy green, so I feel like I had a lot. So if it's like a really purpley palette, I probably don't have a lot of those in my collection. But you know, let me know if you'd like to see something like this in the future if I'm I'm able to do it with a new release. I just thought it'd be fun to sit down and be able to swatch them out side by side. I'm a little stained, but my point in doing this was to hopefully be as helpful as I could for you guys if you were considering this, or if you were trying to shop in your own collection and see if you had anything similar so you don't have to take advantage of it, or maybe at least you can wait a bit and get it on sale, because that's the girl I would be if I wasn't a YouTuber. I would totally be waiting for a sale. But anyway, like I said, I just wanted to do this video to hopefully be able to help you guys see the colors swatched side by side. But yeah, with all that said, that is going to do it for today's video. If you did find this video helpful or informative, please give it a thumbs up on your way out, as it helps me in the whole YouTube algorithm. And if you want to stay up to date on daily content or daily new information from me, new posts, I'm on Instagram, LadyKatie92, and I post there about every day, and I'm in my stories if you want to watch my stories and whatnot. But with all that said, I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye guys.